Welcome to Healing Your Families. What do you think of when you hear the expression protecting your family? A lot of times we think of a home security system or life insurance, but our guest today can tell us about a much broader, more comprehensive definition. I'm really excited to introduce Deby Miller. She has been studying how to protect your families for over 16 years. Deby, welcome.
Wow, thank you, Emily. I appreciate this time.
And tell us your story. How did you become involved in learning how to protect families?
Okay, well, I probably like a lot of our families, when our boys were young, we thought we should have a will. We should decide who was going to take care of them if we weren't around. We didn't really have a lot of stuff to donate to whoever to help take care of them. And we really didn't know what all a will involved, but we knew we should be the one picking who was going to take care of them. Well, we'd go down the list. My mom was sick, his parents were old, his brother this, my brother that. And, pretty soon we were at the end of the list and we're like, okay, we have nobody that we trust with our kids. Or we weren't sure. So we just kind of put it on a shelf, like a lot of things. We were super busy. Our boys were 3 and under. We had 3 boys, 3 and under at that point. And so, we were pretty busy finding food, clothes, keeping a roof over our head, all of those kind of things that, the will would come up occasionally, but not necessarily. So fast forward a number of years, we were introduced to a program called Legal Shield, or prepaid legal services. There's a lot of things to Legal Shield, but the thing that caught our attention right away was that at no extra cost, we could both have our wills written. And, so like, wow, that's a biggie, because we didn't even know how much a will cost, even at that point. We just knew it wasn't something that we could afford. And so the really great thing was that Legal Shield actually has like a little pamphlet that you fill in the information, you send it to the attorney, they call you if there's a question, they fill it all out for you. It's not like a 1-pager, 2-pager. It was like a comprehensive 12-page or so will. And they send it back to you, look at it, sign it, and put it someplace where you can all find it and know where it is. So that was the thing that first off grabbed our attention. And as you mentioned, this has now been over 16 years. So we've had a few incidents where, things that are just normal parts of life. One of our daughter-in-laws got a phone call from the hospital and asked how she was recovering from her surgery. She hadn't had surgery. And they're like, well, that's okay. We're already sent it to your insurance company. And they're like, no, I'm not. My insurance isn't paying for somebody else's surgery. But the hospital wasn't interested in listening. So they had to get the attorneys involved to tell them, I don't know who the person was that had surgery, but it wasn't our client, and those kind of things. So, those were not something that you planned. You didn't wake up and decide, okay, I'm going to be a criminal. I'm going to go rob a bank or break into the gas station where you would need an attorney. But there's other things that have happened. You had Sarah Vigo on a few weeks ago, and she was talking about insurance. It's crazy the number of insurance agents that are not like Sarah. They're just ready, they just want to get the bottom line, make sure they get their paycheck. And it doesn't really matter what kind of insurance you got. Did you get too much? Did you not have enough? I know several people who purchased flood insurance, except when the flood actually happened, they were informed that, oh, well, this flood insurance doesn't cover that kind of flood. You know, whether it was a God flood or whatever. And so I was like, well, why would you even have told them to buy this kind of insurance then? Why not be upfront and protect your people? Another thing that we've used it for, one of our grandsons was bullied at school, and they tried to deal with it at home or, you know, personally, and they weren't getting anywhere. So they finally called the attorneys. They wrote a letter. The letter got sent to the superintendent of schools, to the superintendent of his school, the teacher, the people that the parents of the student that was bullying him, plus a letter went to our son. And I mean, when I read it, I was like, whoa, I don't, you know, this is serious stuff. They need to take care of it. But while it helped for a little while, it didn't get things resolved. And so our attorney had to write another letter saying that if you're not going to do what needs to be done, we can get the police involved in this and take it even the next step farther. You know, we're good with that. We have plenty of hours of attorney time because that's part of our program. And I think you and Kathy have heard the story about the young military wife at the mechanic shop, where the mechanic wants to fix her car because it's super hot, you know, the thing. But he told her that he needed to fix both water pumps in her car so that her air conditioner properly worked. Now, I don't know about you. I've been in not necessarily that situation, but I've gone to get parts at a parts store and other things. And I'm like, I always feel like I'm the dumb blonde in the neighborhood, or, you know, whatever. And her husband was deployed. And she had no one else to call. So she called the attorney, which is super easy because it's a button on your phone and an app. So she actually was talking to an attorney like within minutes. He got all the information from her, where she was, the name of the mechanic, the whole thing. And after he got her calmed down, the attorney actually called that mechanic and reminded him that there was only one water pump in any car actually in the world, one water pump to repair. And so he expected that this would be taken care of quickly, inexpensively, if possible, maybe free. But if he wasn't going to cooperate, he would be sure that this company was investigated, because it's highly unlikely that this was the first time he thought of doing this. And of course, I mean, I'm a military mom, so I'm like, you know, there's certain limits, you know, you don't do those kind of things to our military families. But seriously, you don't do them to anybody. You know, integrity is integrity, no matter how you do it. And so anyway, the car got fixed quickly, and mom and her kids were off on the way. I don't know whether he had the company investigated, but it technically was a legal issue that I was totally surprised at the beginning anyway, that she would even call to do that. So
you have just touched on several points I want to emphasize. First of all, young parents who feel like we don't have much, you know, why do we need a will? Your most priceless possession are those sweet children. I love the way you said you wanted to make sure your boys were taken care of if anything happened to you and your husband. So right there, your most precious would be your children. And the idea of all of the legal ramifications, everything from getting your car fixed to a fraudulent insurance claim, all of it, having nothing, I think there's just something about that phone call. When you answer the phone and you find out you're talking to an attorney, all of a sudden, you're out that mechanic, you know, if nothing else, I'm sure the attorney jarred him and maybe hopefully changed his practices so he didn't need that investigation after all.
Right.
But that, I love that, knowing you've got an attorney right there, a phone call away.
Yes, it's really important. Actually, my husband was driving at night to an appointment. He was hit by a hit and run driver. The hit knocked him into a huge Kansas City bus. And then the guy ran off, so there was no way to, this was your fault and all that kind of stuff. But we had an emergency button. So he was actually talking to an attorney before the police got there. The attorney could actually calm him down, which is a really good thing in those kind of situations, because our brains that whole rattled thing is totally a real event right there. And so he could be talking to the attorney if he needed to. He could have actually had the attorney talk to the police officers when they got there. So yeah, having that app on your phone and just a touch of an app, and the really great thing, even if it was expensive, it would be phenomenal. However, the fact that it is super inexpensive, basically like $1 a day or a little more, to protect not just you, but your whole family, which I really love that our plans are family plans. And, my grandson could have had the app on his phone if he had a phone back then, but he could have had the app on his phone right there and be talking to an attorney before he even got home. And that would have been a great idea. My husband could talk to the attorney and be calmed down before things got crazy. That lady at the mechanic shop, being able to call an attorney to actually help in this situation was just awesome. And obviously our laws are the laws, so our attorneys can't change the law, but it's really great to have somebody on your side, because all of our contracts were written by somebody's attorney, but you need to have an attorney to make sure it benefits you, not just somebody else.
Yes, well, as you pointed out, they can't change the law, but they understand the law. They know how it works. And ideally, I've heard mechanics really try to assume that most women don't understand how cars work. And, if the man can take the car in, but ideally, she would have asked her husband. Her husband would have told her right out, no, there's only, one water pump. But she had someone to help her, and also had some authority. And you're right, an attorney's retainer is pretty hefty.
Right, yeah. So basically ours is just, you have a retainer, not just an attorney, but you have a law firm on retainer with our app. So I'm not sure the attorney's name there in Utah. Our attorney here in Missouri, and Kathy has an attorney in Kansas. They cover every area of law. So you might come up with something that they've never dealt with before. But a really cool thing is that all of the attorneys that we have are all connected. So if my attorney gets a situation that he's not really sure exactly what to do, he can put out a message and say, hey, anybody had this kind of an issue? What did you do? How did you do it? Any guidance? Because obviously there's a lot of laws to understand and know. And the laws in Kansas or Utah aren't going to be exactly the same as in Missouri. But, they can help get you focused into a direction of maybe where to search. In fact, I know one. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, I'm thinking of the story you told of your grandson and being bullied. Did the attorney also contact the school?
Right, yes. He contacted the superintendent of the whole, I mean, here in Kansas City, we have big city school things. So that the head superintendent got it. The superintendent or principal of his personal school had a letter. His teacher had a letter. The parents of this other child had a letter. My son had a letter, so he knew what the attorney had said. And I think there was a couple other people that maybe had gotten the letter as well. So
that's another advantage. Parents may not, I think we all know that schools are not to allow this to happen, that schools are, legally bound to protect their students, but not all parents know exactly who to contact and how to word it, how to phrase it to be effective.
Right, yeah, that's true. I was just going to mention too, we have one attorney just not too long ago mentioned that he personally has, it seems like he was maybe actually an attorney general in a state, but he actually has Legal Shield because it was less expensive for him to have Legal Shield do his investigation and studies, research information, than it was for him to send one of his people out to do it. To me, that really says a lot about our attorneys, that another attorney is willing to use them for anything at all. But so, yeah, we have great attorneys, obviously really kind-hearted, helpful with our members, but know how to get the job done. I call them pit bulls, and some of them are women, so they have pit bulls with lipstick on, and I kind of like that idea.
Now, I know a lot of it is just being aware. You haven't mentioned it yet, but I know some people have been sued because someone slipped on their sidewalk or on the ice or something. So do they also provide some counsel on how to prevent?
Yes, we have. We can help with that. We can help with even if they need to go to court. If somebody is suing you in a civil matter, you already have so many hours of time. Even the very first year, you have 60 hours of attorney time paid for. So if somebody is trying to be, well, word is missing, but anyway, trying to sue you for something that isn't really a situation, our attorneys can easily say, we are super fine to go to court. My client has, 60 hours, 120 hours, 300 hours already paid for. So, you just go for it, whatever you're up for, which is pretty powerful because, and even the 60 hours when an attorney starts, he has to take that to the other people's client, and he tells them, this person you're trying to sue already has 60 hours of an attorney time to deal with this situation. We're talking maybe $300 an hour for 60 hours. That is a lot of money for somebody to decide whether, is this really something I want to do with? So, yeah, if people are just going to try to sue you for no reason, really. And that was kind of the reason why Legal Shield got started way back 50 years ago. Our founder was in a car accident, and the person that hit him head on decided to sue him because somehow he might have done something that made her cross the center line and hit him head on. I don't really understand how she could have thought that, but he spent the money to buy a brand new Cadillac to prove he was innocent. He didn't feel very innocent then, and so he he started looking for a way to help protect people.
But you know, even if someone's at fault, they still need that legal protection that they are not unduly prosecuted.
Right, exactly. So I guess I have one more story I can tell you. One of our attorneys mentioned that they'd had a client that the groom and his best man were in a car accident on the way to the wedding. The best man had been thrown out of the car and the groom was the driver and he died. The police insisted that the groomsman had to have been the driver. And so our attorneys had to totally review the whole situation. And, you know, I mean, it wasn't bad enough that the groom was dead on his wedding day and all of that. It was the brother of this groomsman, but they were able to prove that there was no way that this man could have been the driver. And so, yeah, they can, you know, take care of all sorts of issues, which is really wonderful.
And a lot of them we would never expect.
Right, exactly.
Wonderful.
But typical, but they're just something that could happen to you on any day. I mean, it's not like this is anything specific, special. I did this on purpose. This is just everyday events. So I love that our people do that.
I think it's good to know that this is available. So how can people contact you?
Well, I have my QR code over here so they can actually use their phone and zap it and my information will come up. I'm on LinkedIn. It's on there also, my LinkedIn page, my Facebook page, my phone number. So pretty easy to get a hold of. If you need me to, I can put my information even with our video.
Great. Well, Debbie, thank you so much. I appreciate, you know, this is information a lot of, excuse me, a lot of families don't have. Those things can come up that we never planned on, never expected. So it's good to know the options. We can take action before to make sure we have at our fingertips good resource, good information, good legal protection. That's really important for families.
Right, yeah, it's really important for our families to have that protection in advance of whatever might happen. But I mean, obviously we're going to help you even if you're in the middle of a crisis as well. So we'd love to help.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you for coming, and to my viewers, thank you for joining us today. We'll be ending the recording in a few minutes. You can feel free to ask Debbie questions. So I hope you'll join us again next week at the same time as we continue this series on the commitment we have to our families, different ways we can serve them. So until then, love yourself, love your family. Let's make the world a better place by strengthening families. Visit my website, healingyourfamilies.com, and send me a comment. Let me know future topics you'd like to hear about, and check out the resources I have for families. This is Emmylou Penrod at healingyourfamilies.com.